The stars above Varela were quiet, cold, distant, but the sky was not empty for long. A ball of fire tore through the upper atmosphere, painting streaks of light against the black. It was not a comet. It was a ship. A broken one. The starward, Ember, a human research vessel, was crashing. Inside, Captain Marcus Hale gripped the emergency controls with one hand and held onto his seat with the other. Sparks flew across the cockpit. Warning lights blinked red. The control screen flashed. Critical system failure. "We're going down," Marcus muttered to himself. "Hold together just a little longer." The ship slammed into Varela's icy surface. Snow and ice exploded into the air as the hull skidded across a frozen valley. When it finally came to a stop, half the ship was buried in the snow. Silence. Marcus slowly opened his eyes. His ribs hurt, his head throbbed, and the cabin was filled with smoke. But he was alive. Ed. The cold could freeze his body in minutes, if he wasn't careful. He needed shelter. Fast. A faint signal blinked on his wrist device, a nearby cave system, about 1 kilometer away. He adjusted his coat, picked up his emergency pack, and began walking. Each step was slow. The snow came, up to his knees in some places. The wind pushed against him like a wall. But Marcus kept going. He had no other choice. By the time he reached the mouth of the cave, his hands were shaking and his face was numb. The entrance was wide and dark, like the open mouth of some ancient beast. Still, it was shelter. He stepped inside. The wind died as he moved deeper. His boots echoed on the icy floor. Glowstones, naturally forming crystals in the cave walls, gave off a soft blue light. It was quiet, peaceful even. He found a small chamber not far from the entrance and set down his pack. He activated a portable heater, and a low hum filled the air as warmth returned to the room. Marcus sat down and exhaled. His breath turned to mist in the cold air. Then he heard it, a sound, soft, almost like breathing. But it wasn't his. He stood up slowly and looked around. Something, or someone, was deeper in the cave. Marcus picked up a scanner and followed the signal. The glowstones guided his way, glowing brighter the deeper he went. The path curved, narrowed, then opened into a wide chamber filled with mist, and there, standing near a wall of glowing ice, was a figure. She was tall and graceful, with smooth, silver-blue skin that shimmered like moonlight. Her large eyes glowed faintly, and her long hair flowed like threads of light. She was wrapped in a robe made of strange fabric that clung to her body like water. Marcus froze. The alien turned slowly, watching him with calm, curious eyes. She didn't run. She didn't attack. She simply tilted her head as if trying to understand who or what he was. He raised his hands. "I come in peace," he said quietly. She didn't answer, but she didn't look afraid either. Marcus glanced at his scanner. The life form was stable, healthy. She was intelligent. She had to be. But why was she alone? Where was her people? Was she dangerous? His questions remained unanswered. The alien finally stepped forward slowly and pointed at his chest. "Human?" she said softly, her voice smooth and musical. Marcus blinked. "Yes," he said. "I'm human." She smiled faintly and nodded. Then, she looked down, placed a hand on her stomach and spoke again, this time in her own language. The words were strange, full of soft sounds and clicks, but her expression was clear. She was asking for something. Marcus didn't understand the language, but he understood the look in her eyes, hope. The alien woman stood still, watching Marcus with calm eyes. The soft blue light from the cave walls made her glow, like a spirit from a forgotten world. Her hand remained on her stomach, and though her words were strange, her message felt important. Marcus took a step forward, slowly, so he wouldn't scare her. "My name is Marcus," he said gently, tapping his chest. "Marcus." The alien looked at him, then repeated, "Marcus." Her voice was soft and musical. It echoed in the cave like a song. She then touched her own chest. "Turin," she said. Marcus smiled. "Turin," he repeated. They stood in silence. For a few moments, two strangers from different worlds trying to understand one another in the middle of a cold, empty land. Marcus noticed Turin was thin, her skin too pale, her movements slow. She was weak, maybe hungry or cold, or both. He opened his emergency pack and pulled out a small food capsule. He showed it to her, then took a bite to show it was safe. She watched carefully, then took the other half when he offered it. She tasted it slowly, her eyes widening in surprise. It wasn't great food, but to someone who hadn't eaten well in days, it was something close to magic. After eating, Turin walked to a nearby stone wall and touched it. A hidden door opened, smooth and silent. Marcus followed her into a warmer chamber deeper in the cave. The air smelled clean and the floor was dry. Here there were signs of life, old symbols carved into the walls, a small fire pit made from smooth black stones, and a simple bed made of soft fibers. She motioned for Marcus to sit and then sat across from him. She picked up a crystal sphere and touched it. A soft light floated above them. A small image appeared. Several beings like Turin standing together on a large green hill under twin moons. Marcus watched as the image changed. The Valari, her people, were shown working, building, smiling. Then the image darkened. Ships appeared in the sky and fire rained down from above. Cities were burned. People fled. The Valari were hunted. The last image showed Turin alone, standing in front of this very cave. Marcus sat in silence. He understood. She was the last. Turin looked at him with tired, honest eyes. She placed the sphere down and pointed to herself, then to the image of her people. Her fingers touched her heart, then her stomach again. She was not just surviving. She was hoping for a future that no longer seemed possible. Marcus felt the weight of her message. She wanted help, not just food or warmth. He reached into a pouch beside her bed and pulled out a small, glowing stone. She placed it into Marcus's hand. He blinked. The stone lit up, and suddenly he could hear her voice, not through his ears but in his mind. "This is a memory stone," she said through the strange magic of the device. "It allows us to share thought, emotion, memory." Marcus looked at her, amazed. "I am the last of the Valari," Turin continued. "Our kind was peaceful. We did not know war until it came from the stars. My people are gone. I hid here while the sky burned. I have lived many years alone. But time is ending. My body grows weaker, and I carry the last light of my people." Marcus's chest felt tight. "Our biology is strange," she explained, "but your species is strong, adaptable. I studied what I could from the fallen ships. There is a chance, small but real, that together we could create life. New life, not just for me, but for a future, for peace." Marcus removed his hand from the stone, needing a moment to breathe. This was not a game, not a mission. It was a request from the edge of extinction. He looked at her, not as an alien, but as someone with deep sorrow and great courage. "I don't know what's possible," he said quietly, "but I won't leave you alone." Turin gave a soft smile, small and sad. Outside, the wind howled across the icy valley. But inside the cave there was a new warmth, born from shared understanding, and the spark of something more than survival. The cave was quiet, except for the soft crackle of a small fire. Marcus sat near it, warming his hands while Turin prepared a drink made from local roots. The smell was strange, sweet, but earthy. He watched her carefully. Every move she made was slow and graceful, almost like a dance. They had spent 3 days together in the cave now. They still spoke little, but they were learning to understand each other in small ways, through hand gestures, expressions, and the help of the memory stone. Still, it wasn't easy. Marcus missed the stars, missed the sound of human voices, missed the feeling of home. And Turin, She was kind, but distant. She didn't laugh. She didn't cry. She carried the weight of an entire world on her shoulders, and Marcus wasn't sure how much longer she could carry it. That morning he tried to repair his broken communicator, hoping to send a signal into orbit. If someone from the Federation picked it up, maybe they could send help. But Turin stopped him. "No signal," she said firmly, her voice soft but clear. She pointed to the sky, then held her hands up like claws. "Hunters." Marcus frowned. "The ones who destroyed your people," she nodded slowly. "They still watch?" She pointed again to the sky and her face grew cold. Marcus understood. If he sent a signal, it might bring help, but it could also bring enemies. The same ones who destroyed the Valari might still be out there waiting. He sighed and sat back, down. "All right, no signal, not yet." Turin handed him the warm drink and sat across from him, her long fingers wrapped around her own cup. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire danced between them, casting shadows on the stone walls. Then Turin touched the memory stone again and reached out her hand. Marcus placed his hand on it too, and once again, he felt her thoughts enter his mind. "You are kind," she said, "Mom, but you do not trust easily." Marcus gave a small smile. "Neither do you." "True," she replied. Images flowed through the stone, memories from both sides. Turin saw flashes of earth, blue skies, tall cities, green forests. She saw Marcus as a boy, running with his dog, laughing with his family. Marcus saw more of her memories, her people dancing under twin moons, their great crystal towers, their songs. Then the silence after the fires came, the empty halls, the cold nights. They both pulled back, breathing deeply. "I didn't know how much you lost, Marky," said. "Now you do." Later that day, Marcus followed Turin through a narrow tunnel that led to another part of the cave system. She showed him a garden, small but alive. Strange plants grew under glowing crystals. Some looked like fruit, others like thick moss. Turin touched a bright red plant and picked it carefully. "Food," she said. "Strong." Marcus took a bite. It was bitter, but it filled his mouth with warmth. He pointed to a vine hanging from the ceiling. "Can we eat that?" Turin shook her head quickly. "Poison." Marcus laughed. "Glad I asked." That was their pattern now: survival, learning, silence, and short moments of connection. But as the sun set on the icy mountains outside, a storm rolled in. The wind howled, and the temperature dropped fast. They returned to the warm chamber, and Turin closed the heavy stone door behind them. The wind outside screamed like a wild beast. Inside, they sat close to the fire again. Marcus noticed Turin shivering. He offered her a thermal blanket from his survival pack. She touched it with wonder, then wrapped it around her shoulders. Her eyes met his, and for the first time she smiled without sadness. "You help," she said. But for now, they had each other. And that was enough. Outside, the storm roared. But inside the cave, two souls, so different yet now connected, sat side by side. An uneasy alliance had begun, and with it, the first spark of something new. The days passed slowly inside the frozen cave. Marcus and Turin had fallen into a rhythm. They gathered food from the crystal garden, shared knowledge, and kept the fire alive. The storm outside had calmed, but the wind still howled in the distance like a reminder that this world was not safe. One morning, Marcus woke to find Turin already sitting by the fire, deep in thought. Her eyes were distant. She looked tired, more than usual. Something was on her mind. He sat beside her. "Bad dreams?" She didn't answer right away. Then she reached for the memory stone and offered it to him. Marcus touched it. The moment their hands met, thoughts and feelings rushed into his mind. This time it wasn't just a memory, it was a message. "Time is short," her voice whispered in his thoughts. "My body grows weaker. The cold, the years, they have taken much from me." Images followed, of her younger self standing, proudly with others of her kind. of Valari children running through glowing fields, of strong Valari males laughing and singing. Then silence. Empty rooms, cold caves, Turin alone year after year waiting. Marcus's heart felt heavy. When he pulled his hand back from the stone, Turin spoke out loud, her voice quiet but firm. "I am the last," she said, "and I cannot wait much longer." Marcus stared at her. He understood now. She wasn't just asking for kindness or company. She was asking for a future. "My people left behind a small chance," she said. "A project, a hope. We studied many species. Human DNA is closest. There is a chance we are compatible." He looked down at his hands. "You want me to help restart your people?" Turin nodded. "Yes." Marcus stood up, pacing a little. He wasn't angry, just overwhelmed. "This is a big choice, Turin. You don't know me. I don't even know how long I'll survive. Here, what if I fail?" She stood too, slowly, carefully. "I ask not because I am desperate," she said. "I ask because I see something in you. You are strong, but gentle. You care, even when afraid. That is the kind of future I want for my people." Marcus took a deep breath. The cave was suddenly quiet again, like it was listening. "I didn't come here to be part of something like this," he said. "I'm just a scientist. I study life. I don't create civilizations." "You are more than you think," Turin said. "You survived. You shared your fire. You stayed." Marcus looked into her eyes. They were calm but full of sorrow and hope. "I'm not saying no," he said finally. "But if we do this, it can't be because of fear. It has to be built on something real. Respect. Trust." Turin nodded. "That is all I ask." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He thought about Earth, about the people he might never see again. He thought about the children Turin had shown him in her memories. Would they ever laugh again? Would they ever walk under twin moons like their ancestors once did? In the morning, he made a decision. He found Turin near the edge of the garden, tending to the plants. "I'll help you," he said softly. She turned, her eyes wide. "You mean it?" "I do," he said. "Not just because your people need it, because I want to give life a chance, a real one." She stepped closer. "Then we begin." Over the next days, Turin showed Marcus the old Valari technology hidden deep in the cave. Some of it was broken, but some still worked. Strange machines designed to protect, grow, and heal. They began preparing together. Not rushing. Not forcing anything. Turin explained everything. How Valari reproduction worked, how their children were raised, how knowledge was passed down. It was all very different, yet strangely familiar. It reminded Marcus of old Earth traditions, of cultures long gone. He listened carefully. He respected her ways. In return, he taught her more about humans, about Earth, about freedom, families, and mistakes. Turin listened just as carefully. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was something stronger. Trust. Late one evening, they stood together near the fire. Turin looked at Marcus and said, "You are not just helping me. You are becoming part of something greater, something that might last." He nodded. "I hope it does." Outside the cave, snow fell quietly, covering the broken world in a soft white blanket. Inside, two lives from different stars stood together, not as strangers, but as allies. And soon, perhaps, something more. The cave was quiet as the first light of day touched the frozen valley. Thin beams of blue sunlight shone through cracks in the stone ceiling. Marcus sat alone near the edge of the garden, deep in thought. It had been many days since he gave Turin his answer. He had agreed to help her. But still his mind was full of questions. This was no ordinary decision. It was not just about science or survival anymore. It was about life, legacy, and the meaning of trust between two very different beings. Turin had not pressured him, After their first talk, she gave him space. She showed him her ways, answered every question, and never asked again. That made Marcus respect her even more. He watched her now as she moved through the garden, carefully tending to each plant. She was graceful and quiet, like a part of the cave itself. Every day she worked hard to keep them both alive. He walked over to her. "You never stop," he said with a smile. Trin looked up. "The garden lives if I do," she said simply. "It reminds me why I stay strong." Marcus looked around. "It's peaceful here. Strange to think the world outside is so cold and empty." "Peace is rare," she said. "We must grow it like a seed." They sat together near the fire again that evening, and Marcus brought out an old data crystal from his suit. It held photos, images from Earth. He showed them to her: tall forests, wide oceans, city lights at night. Trin's eyes widened. "Your world is full." "It is," Marcus said. "Full of life and mistakes, but also full of hope." She was quiet for a while, then spoke slowly. "What if we succeed and my people return? Will they be welcome in your world?" Marcus thought about it. "That's hard to say. Some will fear what they don't know, but others will see your strength, your kindness. I did." Trin touched her chest. "I would teach them peace. That is our way." Later, they returned to the inner chamber where the Villari machines were kept. One large device, round and glowing faintly, had been repaired with Marcus's help. It was an ancient biochamber, designed to guide and protect early life stages. Trin stood beside it. This was once used for learning and healing. Now, it will begin something new. Marcus stepped beside her. "Are you sure it's ready?" She nodded. "It remembers its purpose, like I do." There was silence, then Marcus asked something he had kept in his heart for days. "What if this doesn't work? What if we try and nothing happens?" Trin looked at him, her expression calm. "Then we still tried, with honor, that matters." Marcus smiled faintly. "You always speak with such peace." "My people believed life is not only about the result," she said. "It is about the choice." That night they sat closer than usual. The firelight reflected in Trin's soft, glowing eyes. Marcus looked at her, not just as an alien, but as a brave soul who had chosen to hope, even in loneliness. "Trin," he said, "if we do this, if we begin this path together, it will change us. We may not be alone anymore." She gently placed her hand over his. "I have been alone for many years. I do not fear change. I welcome it, with you." Marcus nodded. "Then we take the next step, together." With care they began the process. Not rushed, not cold. It was a shared promise. Trin used her knowledge and Marcus followed, always with respect. The Villari method was gentle, based on bonding and trust. The machines guided the process, ensuring safety and balance. This was not about quick solutions. It was about life, and life needed time. Afterward, they rested by the fire again, watching its quiet flame. Trin leaned her head lightly on Marcus's shoulder. "I do not feel alone anymore." "You're not," he whispered. Outside, the cold world remained the same. But inside the cave, something had changed. A connection had formed. Not just between two people, but between two species, two hopes, two dreams. A spark had been lit, and from it, a future could grow. The fire crackled gently in the center of the cave, throwing warm light across the stone walls. Marcus and Trin sat beside it, quiet and calm. For the first time in weeks, the silence between them was not heavy. It was peaceful. The biochi. Amber now hummed with life. It glowed softly, watching over the process they had started together. Trin checked it every morning, gently touching its surface with care and hope. Marcus, meanwhile, had been working on something of his own. Morning. He pulled a metal box from the corner of his supplies. It was the broken communicator. He sat beside the fire, small tools in hand, trying to bring it back to life. Turin walked over and sat beside him. Still trying? Marcus nodded. If I can fix it, I can send a signal into space. Maybe someone from the Federation will hear it. But the sky is not safe, she reminded him gently. I know, he said. But if I don't try, no one will ever know we're here. No one will know you survived, that your people still have a chance. Turin thought for a moment. If you do this, can they be trusted? Marcus looked into her eyes. Some can. Some might fear you, but others will help. There are still good people out there. She nodded slowly. Then we try. With her help, Marcus connected parts of the Volari technology to the human device. It took days, but at last the screen lit up with a soft beep. Signal ready. Marcus typed a message carefully. Survivor of Starward Ember, crashed on Varela. Human alive. Volari survivor found. Assistance needed. Future depends on this, please respond. He sent the signal and waited. There was no answer at first, just silence. Later that night, Turin walked with Marcus to the cave's outer edge. The wind was light and stars shone above. The cold air touched their faces, but it no longer scared them. She pointed at the sky. Your people, will they come soon? I hope so, he said, but it could take days, or longer. Then suddenly, a soft sound echoed through the cave. It was not wind, a pulse, low and deep. Marcus and Turin turned toward the noise. It came again, closer this time. Boom. Boom. Footsteps. Not human. Marcus reached for his tool knife. Turin moved closer to him, her eyes alert. Out of the shadows, 3 tall figures appeared. Their armor was black, and their faces hidden under thick masks. They held weapons that buzzed softly in the cold air. Raiders, the same kind who had destroyed the Volari long ago. They had followed the signal. Turin stepped in front of Marcus. Stay back, she whispered. But Marcus didn't move. We stand together. The raiders spoke in a language neither of them knew, but their actions were clear. One pointed his weapon at the biochamber glowing in the back of the cave. Turin's eyes filled with fire. She stepped forward. No! She shouted. The lead raider raised his arm to strike, but Marcus leaped forward, knocking him aside. A second raider swung his weapon, hitting Marcus's arm. Pain shot through him, but he didn't stop. Turin grabbed a small crystal from the wall, one she had once used to guide light through the cave. She hurled it at the weapon of the third raider. It shattered with a flash of bright light, blinding them for a moment. Using the chance, Marcus tackled the second raider. The two struggled, slipping on the icy floor. Finally, Marcus hit the mask hard enough to crack it. The raider fell, unmoving. The last 2 raiders backed away. Turin stood, tall, glowing faintly in the darkness, her voice strong and steady. This is a place of life, she said, not death. Leave now. The raiders looked at each other, then turned and vanished into the shadows. Silence returned. Marcus leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his arm bleeding slightly. Turin rushed to him. You're hurt. I've had worse, he said, with a tired smile. Is the chamber safe? She checked it quickly. The glow was steady. It is untouched. Marcus sat down, his head spinning from the fight. That signal brought danger. But maybe it also brought a chance. Turin nodded. We showed them. We are not weak. She wrapped a cloth around Marcus's wound. Her hands were gentle, her face close. You protected what matters most. You are more Volari than you know. He smiled. Then maybe there's hope for me after all. The fire burned low, but the warmth remained. In the cave, they had defended their future. Together. Outside in the cold sky above Varela, A tiny light blinked in the dark. A ship had heard the E signal, and it was coming. The light in the sky grew brighter with each passing hour. Turin and Marcus stood at the edge of the cave, watching the slow descent of the ship that had answered the signal. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a bird in flight, glowing against the deep blue sky of Varela. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. Rescue had come. After weeks of surviving in the cold, after danger, loss, and long nights of silence, someone had heard them. "They're coming," he said softly. Turin nodded. "You were right to send the signal. But now we must trust them," Marcus said. "We don't know who they are yet." Minutes later, the ship touched down on a flat patch of ice not far from the cave. The engines hissed and cooled. A ramp lowered. 3 figures stepped out, humans in Federation suits, weapons holstered but ready. Marcus walked out to greet them, raising his hand. "Captain Marcus Hale," he called. "Crash survivor. I sent the signal." The lead officer stepped forward. "Captain Hale, we received your transmission. Are you alone?" Marcus looked back toward the cave. "No, I'm not." Turin stepped beside him, her robe flowing gently in the wind, her glowing eyes calm and steady. The officers stiffened when they saw her. "She's a survivor," Marcus said firmly. "Her name is Turin. She's the last of the Valari." The officers exchanged looks. One of them tapped his wrist device, likely scanning her life form. "We've heard of the Valari," the leader said slowly. "But we thought they were gone." Marcus shook his head. "She's alive. And more than that, she has a future now. We've started something here. Something that could bring her people back." There was silence. The officers didn't reach for their weapons, but they didn't lower their guard either. Turin stepped forward and bowed her head. "I seek peace," she said gently, "and life." Finally, the lead officer nodded. "If what you say is true, Captain, the Federation will want to help. But they will also want answers. Proof." "You'll get it," Marcus said. "But not from a lab. From here." He pointed to the cave. "See it with your own eyes." Inside, the officers explored carefully. They saw the biochamber glowing with soft light, the Valari technology, the crystal garden. They listened as Marcus explained what they had built, what they had defended, and what they hoped to protect. One of the officers knelt beside the chamber. "Is it working?" "It's begun," Turin said. "The light within is strong." That night, the officers stayed in the cave. They brought supplies, real food, medicine, communication tools. Marcus and Turin sat together near the fire, sharing a quiet meal. "What will happen now?" she asked. "They'll take the message back to the Federation," Marcus said. "With proof that your people are not gone, that there's hope." "And you?" she asked. Marcus looked at her. "I'll stay." Her eyes softened. "You are sure?" "I didn't find you just to leave you behind," he said. "This is my place now." She reached for his hand and held it. "Then we will build it. Together." In the days that followed, more ships arrived. Scientists, historians, and peaceful envoys came to learn and support. They didn't take over. They listened. The Federation offered supplies and energy units to help keep the cave warm and the systems running. They brought translators and new memory crystals to improve communication between species. Marcus worked with the human teams to protect the environment around the cave, making sure the Valari culture was respected. Turin became a teacher, sharing her knowledge of the Valari ways of harmony, care for nature, and the importance of choosing peace. And the biochamber? It glowed brighter with each day. Life was growing inside. One afternoon, as Marcus checked the equipment, he felt a warm hand on his shoulder. Turin stood beside him, her smile calm and peaceful. "It is time," she said. They opened the chamber gently. Inside, a small form moved. It was not fully human and not fully Valari, but something new. A child of two worlds, a symbol of unity, of survival, of future. Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. Turin gently picked up the child and held it close. She is light, she whispered, born from darkness. Marcus placed his hand over theirs. She's hope. That night the stars above Varela seemed brighter. The wind was soft. The fire inside the cave burned steady and warm, and deep in the cold mountains, where once there was silence, there was now laughter. Life. A new beginning, not just for Marcus, not just for Turin, but for two civilizations, joined by honor, by choice, and by a promise kept.